Welcome back to N's NotebookLM. For decades now, programs like SETI have been scanning the heavens, right? Listening for just a whisper from some alien civilization. But what if, all that time, we've been pointing our telescopes in the completely wrong direction? Today, we're diving into a really radical idea, one that suggests the greatest discoveries are in outer space but inner space. So the material we're looking at today asks this incredible question. We've been pouring all this energy into building bigger telescopes and more powerful rockets, listening to the static of the sky, but what if the most profound contact we could ever make isn't out there, but in here? What if messages from some other intelligence have been broadcasting from inside us all along?
And this is the central, totally mind-bending idea we're exploring today. The possibility that humans have already been traveling through space and time, that we've already been making contact with other species, just not with rockets, but by using these incredibly altered states of consciousness. It's the idea that there's a whole infinite world inside of us that connects with the world outside.
Okay, so if there really is a gateway inside the mind, what's the key that unlocks it? Well, according to the research, it's a very specific, incredibly powerful, and, believe it or not, a surprisingly common chemical. Let me introduce you to N,N-dimethyltryptamine, or DMT for short. It's often called the spirit molecule, and for good reason. It seems to act like a chemical key that fits a very special lock inside our brains, opening the door to realities that are just profoundly different from our everyday waking world. Now, here's the part that is just absolutely astonishing. It's how common this stuff is. This isn't some rare synthetic drug cooked up in a lab. No, it's everywhere in nature. And here's the kicker. It's made inside us. Our own bodies, our brains, our lungs, they have the biological machinery to produce this key to other worlds. And that just begs the obvious, massive question. Why? And this isn't some brand new discovery. We're talking thousands of years. Shamanic traditions have been using plants that contain DMT, like in the ayahuasca brew, for this exact purpose, to access alternate realities and to communicate with what they call the spiritual world. What they saw as spirit contact, well, modern research is now documenting with unbelievable clarity. So what happens when you take these ancient mystical practices and bring them into a modern clinical setting? Well, in the 1990s, Dr. Rick Strassman at the University of New Mexico did exactly that, and the results were nothing short of reality-shattering. So picture this, a controlled, sterile hospital environment. Dozens of volunteers, all carefully screened and prepared, were given intravenous DMT. The researchers, they were expecting to hear about, strange colors, maybe some geometric patterns. What they got instead were these incredibly consistent, highly detailed reports of contact with intelligent, non-human beings. Just listen to this account from Carl, one of the volunteers. He describes encountering elves. But these weren't just passive images in his head. No, they were active. They were intelligent. They commanded the scene. They were showing him things, directing the whole experience. This theme of meeting autonomous beings just runs through almost all of the reports. And this experience wasn't just a one-off. Here's another volunteer, Aaron. He reports something very similar, but with a different kind of entity. He describes this insect-like thing, and, crucially, he feels a clear sense of purpose from it. Listen to his words. They have an agenda. This is not a random dream. It feels like an interaction with a real intelligence. This next account from Dimitri is the one that really gets me. It perfectly illustrates this feeling of being expected. He describes arriving in a landing bay where they had a space ready for him. He felt like they were preparing him for a mission. I mean, think about that. The beings in this other reality were less surprised to see him than he was to see them. So the really crucial point here is that these weren't just random, chaotic visions. When you pull back and look at all the reports together, these very clear themes just jump out at you. People were consistently meeting intelligent beings, they were seeing futuristic technology, they felt a sense of purpose or a mission, and, this is so important, they all describe the experience as feeling more real than real. Not like a dream, not like a drug trip, but more real than this reality right now. This unbelievable consistency forced the researchers to face this profound question about the nature of reality itself. Were they just documenting the brain's most elaborate magic trick, or was something else going on entirely? And this is the scientific dilemma right at the heart of all this research. Is the brain just a powerful generator, an amazing movie projector creating these entire worlds and entities from scratch? Or could it be acting more like a receiver, simply tuning into a signal that's already out there? So let's just break these two models down. The psychological model, that's the standard scientific view. It basically says, this is your brain on DMT. It's an incredibly complex but totally self-contained hallucination. But the receiver model, this is where things get really wild. It suggests the brain is like a television set. Normally, it's tuned to channel everyday reality. DMT doesn't create the show, it just changes the channel, allowing us to perceive these other parallel realities that are always there, just usually outside our normal perception. Now, as crazy as the receiver model sounds, the source material actually explores a potential, though, highly speculative, scientific way it could work. This isn't just mysticism, it's a dive into some really deep theoretical physics. The idea is that maybe, just maybe, the brain can interact with reality in ways we are only just beginning to imagine. And this brings us to a concept called quantum holography. The theory goes that these tiny, tiny structures inside our neurons, called microtubules, could actually act as a sort of quantum network. This network might be able to process information non-locally, so think of it like a biological internet, capable of tuning into a universal field of information that connects our consciousness to the entire cosmos. In this model, that could be the receiver. So whether you lean more towards the generator model or the receiver model, the implications of this research are they're paradigm shifting. They force us to completely rethink the nature of consciousness and its place in the universe. Ultimately, it almost doesn't matter if these worlds are real in the way we think of reality. The simple fact that a chemical produced in our own bodies can reliably grant us access to a seemingly freestanding inhabited reality, well, it just means our current models of the mind are at best radically incomplete. It reveals a capacity of human consciousness that we just can't ignore anymore. And this, for me, is maybe the most powerful takeaway. The lead researcher, Dr. Strassman, a trained scientist, was so compelled by the consistency and the clarity of what his volunteers were telling him that he was forced to treat their experiences as real. Not as metaphors, not as symbols, but as descriptions of actual events in a different but just as valid reality. So, we're left with this final, provocative question. It completely reframes the search for extraterrestrial life from a journey across the stars to a journey deep within ourselves. If the key to unlocking other dimensions is already a part of our own biology, it suggests that consciousness isn't just something that happens in the universe. It might be a fundamental gateway to the universe. If this topic has captured your interest and you'd like to dive deeper, the book is called Inner Paths to Outer Space by Strassman, Slawek, Wojtowicz, Eduardo, and Frecska.